Before jumping into the podcast, I just want to mention Goalkeeper, who is a trusted and good partner sponsoring this podcast. They have gloves, they have glove products, the best in the business. Now, let's jump into the episode.
On the promotion.
Yeah, it's taken me 20 years, mate, but finally got one. So it was,
Uh,
it was nice. It was a nice way to finish like my contract with them and stuff, and really good way to bow out, I think.
yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
So you've been at Derby for 2 years, right?
yeah, 2 years. Yeah, so kind of went in as part of the rebuild when they went into administration and stuff. So
Yeah.
it was nice to kind of get them back to where they belong and be part of that squad.
Oh, so they were in. So they had like financial difficulty, right?
Yeah, so they got the points deduction and got relegated. Yeah, and then kind of did a rebuild from there.
Okay. So, but what's been your role in Derby for the last 2 years?
So I went in as a number 3 to start off with and to kind of coach on the side. But then the first week of training, the number 2 snapped his arm. So, but he broke it like bang in the middle of his arm. So like it took 16 weeks to repair because the pressure of the ball hitting like the hand. So I ended up being the number 2, playing a few cup games like straight from the off, which was obviously nice. And then kind of finished the season as a 3. Then this season the same happened again. Started as a 3, number 2 got injured, so I was on the bench again. So I've kind of floated between that 2 and 3 role really.
Yeah. How do you find that, like that role of being? Because obviously you played a lot of games before,
Yeah.
earlier in your career. How have you found like that role of being, like a number 2, not playing every weekend or every other, in Championship or League
Yeah.
One, or League Two? There's a lot of games, but how has it been to be in that role?
To be honest, being a number 3, I really enjoyed it. Like really took to the role. Really helped. Really enjoyed helping out the lads that were playing and helping out the young boys and kind of giving back a little bit of my experience and stuff. And I love training, man. I'm like a big kid when I train. Like, and you'll know the same. You just can't beat diving around, can you? It's like there's
No.
no better feeling. Being a number 2 is really hard. Like, don't like it. Like, because you've still got to prepare as if you're going to play, but you know you're not going to play. So anything down from your social life to your professional life, you're dedicating yourself to this Saturday. Then you've still got to do the extra stuff that number 1 doesn't do. But yet you might play on the Saturday, so it's really really hard. And that's something that I think everyone says the number 3 is a unique role, but I think the 2, if you're a good number 2 like Ortega or Sergio Romero, something like that, then I think you've cracked it because I don't think there's many of them around.
I think that's really difficult. And maybe when, like with Stefan Ortega, when you're so good as the number 2, I think it's maybe also like a position you're not accepting of for such a long time. And I think like for Stefan Ortega, I guess he will probably try to get a move on this summer maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think when you look at someone like him, and you know Chelsea need a goalkeeper, Newcastle need a goalkeeper. He's good enough. You know, when you see the names that are thrown around, he's plenty good enough to go and play for them. So I think it gets to a point as well as a 2 when you know that you can play and you can do that role that you think, well, actually, not that I should be playing in front of number 1, but you know, for yourself, you're thinking I should be playing here every week. I think it's a really hard job to have.
Yeah, but how's that been in terms of supporting the number 1? How have you been there throughout your career? Has it been? Have you also always been a part of a solid, good goalkeeper union, or
Yeah.
has there been like periods where it's been like a bit awkward, like it was with maybe Jens Lehmann and Almunia at Arsenal for some time?
To be honest, mate, I've been very, very lucky. So you know, when I first went to Watford, obviously Ben Foster was the goalie, and he literally is what you see on YouTube or on TV. He's exactly the same kind of character. And he was so good with me, bringing me through. And then when I went to England under 21s, Joe Hart was obviously the goalkeeper, and he's exceptional as well. Like obviously a great goalkeeper, but as a person, like you've obviously seen him as well. And I found him and Ben like the perfect kind of role models to work off because their ability spoke for itself. But as people, the way they treated you, they really wanted to get you better. So from a young age, I was kind of always taught them principles to pass down. And then when I was kind of playing, I've been very fortunate. I've never really come across anybody that was wanted to ruin the session or didn't want me to play. It's always been a younger lad or someone that kind of looks up to you and learns. Or it's only really, I don't think I've had anyone that's been more senior than what I have. So I think that probably helps as well a little bit. I think they look up to you with your experience, but I've been fortunate in that way. But I don't get the goalkeeper rivalry because we're such a unique bunch of people. It's almost like our own sport, isn't it? And
Yeah, for sure,
it's
for
like
sure.
it's like if me and you were training tomorrow and you're playing, then you have to prepare because at some point you might break your arm, for instance, and then you have to come back and train me. And if I don't respect you, you're not going to respect me, and everyone's performances dip. I think only goalkeepers know what goalkeepers are going through. I don't care what all these pundits say. Until you've been in that position, I don't think you can speak for it.
No, and do you think that's maybe why like the respect among goalkeepers are so normally so big because we all know what it takes to be standing there and playing the position?
I think that's it. I don't think it comes down to ability. I think it's that mental side in your head to like tomorrow that if you made a mistake, you're still going to walk out there next week and you're going to try exactly the same thing over and over again, and you don't care who's behind you, who's saying what. And none of the players do that, but you can kind of make a mistake as a player and get away with it. Whereas the goalkeeper, it's slow scrutinised, and I think because you'll know if you were watching me play, if something happened, you'll know what's going through my head. You'll just know it as vice versa, as Ortega's knows, just to a different level. And I think that's why goalkeepers have such a respect for each other because I think it's up here. I know people call us crazy and stuff, but I think you've also got to be very mentally strong. And I think it's 80% of your actual performance is done up here. I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's such a huge, you know, mental sport. It doesn't matter if you have acquired all the skills in terms of catching, kicking, you know, diving, claiming crosses. If you don't have the proper tools to, you know, to manage yourself in under high pressure, you know,
Yeah.
and make all those skills, you know, come to fruition, it doesn't matter how good you are. So yeah, the mental part of goalkeeping is huge.
Yeah, I even think on the flip side as well. Like when you're winning, if you're beating a team 4-0, there's a chance as an outfield player, I'm going to get a chance. We're going to make it 5-0. I'm going to get a free kick. As a goalkeeper as well, it's also very difficult just to stay in your goal, keep a clean sheet, and not because sometimes you think I'm going to come for that because I want to impress. We've all been there. You think I need to do something in the game because I haven't touched it, and I think so. Whether you're winning or the pressure's on, I think either way, it's so mentally challenging. Um, so you've got to have that calmness and that kind of that presence about you to kind of just get through any kind of situation. And I think that's what the outfield players are probably going to listen to this and hammer me for it. But I don't think they have that. I think they get more room for error, more opportunity. Whereas I think ours is like it's just there and then that's it.
Yeah, because if you play a game and you're winning 4-0 and one of the outfield players does like a missed pass, probably the opposition will not hurt you. But for us, if there's a shot or a cross and we fumble the ball and it's a goal and it's 4-1, it's so draining mentally, you know, because yeah, the
Yeah,
team is winning 4-1 and stuff, but you know your feeling after that kind of incident and such a game is so bad, you know.
yeah, it's horrible. It's like I remember playing once for Chesterfield and playing against Barnet. And we should have won 6-0, but we 6-7-0. We were 4-0 up, and they scored in the 94th minute, last kick of the game. I felt like I lost, because it's just that one moment, and they scored, and you just think like, it's just better, isn't it? If it's just a clean sheet and you all get that kind of same feeling on the off the way pitch.
But talking about the mental game, then how have you um, put a lot of emphasis and focus on developing your mental game throughout your career? Have you worked with someone? Have you managed this yourself, or how have you done that kind of process?
I did when I was at Watford. I had to see someone because I obviously broken at such a young age, and I played 4 seasons on the bounce, and like didn't miss a minute. And obviously you get through adrenaline sometimes, don't you? As a goalkeeper, you get through on the high, and then it got to a point one Christmas time. I just started doing exactly that. What I said, like I started thinking, I've got to save this, or I've got to come for this cross. And I think in a run of 6 games over Christmas, I made 3 big mistakes during the Christmas break, and then I just started completely overthinking everything. And then obviously kind of had a little bit of time out of the team and then got back in. And I went to see a sports psychologist and he was kind of trying to teach me triggers and points in the game or little things that I can relate back to stuff that isn't related to football but will just clear my head and start again. So, for instance, for me, if we score, I always run back and touch the crossbar because it's like a reset, like go again, it's finished. And I used to do this thing with my fist. It used to get me to like imagine something that made me laugh or made me calm. And I used to think of my best friend like doing something stupid. I won't say what, but I was doing something stupid. So like if something bad happened, I just almost like clench my fist and it made me, and then back in, and they taught me like little triggers. I was reading something. I think Jack Butland takes his strap off and puts his strap back on. So
Yeah.
little things like that, and I think they're really good. And I try and tell the young kids now that if we have a corner, I used to just run up to the halfway line and chat absolute nonsense to the defender or just shout at him, just to keep me switched on, or little things like that. And I think it's hugely important because, like we just touched on, it's such a mental game as a goalkeeper. You can't have, I think, and the game's getting faster now and quicker, and it's more technical, and from defence to attack in 1 minute, the transition's so fast. I don't think you can have a second to switch off.
No, no, for sure not. So you're like they're explaining like you had some go-tos for resetting your mind during the game,
Yeah,
but I think there's many, especially younger goalkeepers, that also drag their mistakes from the field into their, day-to-day life
yeah,
off the pitch as well, and
yeah.
use a lot of energy during their day. Maybe if they're still going to school, thinking about the mistakes they've done. How have you like overcome, like just in general, like not letting the mistake um, also affect you in the next training session, the next game, and how you feel just in normal, like in daily life?
I think the biggest thing I learned is, when you first make a mistake when you're younger, you kind of want to hide away from it or not really talk about it, or you don't want to see the goal back. Yeah, it's just natural. You don't want to see it. But what I learned helped me was taking that accountability and saying, right, yeah, that was my fault. Like, let's have a look at it. So, like on a Monday morning, it'd be like, before we go out, let's look at the goal, dress it up, wake up and move on. Right, it's gone. So by the training starts on Monday, I've spoke about it. It's out in the open. You've put your hands up, and then it's gone. It took me till I was about 29 to probably get to that stage. I'm not going to lie. It took me to mature to that. But I found when that happened, it was like just a big relief. And it almost got to the point then when you did make a mistake, because people would know, you'd be like, yeah, that was my fault. They wouldn't even bother you. Do you know what I mean? You just get on with it. And it just became a natural process then to kind of re-find your form. Where I think as a kid, and I try saying what I try and pass on to the kids now is, and it's easy for me to say, so when I'm coaching them, I'll turn around and just say to them, look, I made mistakes in the biggest game. I played against Germany 21s and had the worst game of my career. I said, I'm still alive. I'm still playing. I've got 3 kids. Life moves on. And it's hard for 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds to understand that. But I think you've just got to almost put into them that there's always another action to recover from it. But if you're dwelling on it, you can't. So for me, going back to your main point, it was taking accountability for it and almost like maturing and saying, yeah, that is my fault. I want to look at it. I want to improve and I want to move on. Because a lot of kids now, with your social medias and like all the glamour stuff that's on there, they all see the good stuff, don't they? They want the good stuff.
Yeah.
But you have to go through a lot of bad stuff to get there. So for me, if you can take as much accountability as you can from an early age, almost not enjoy making mistakes. Well, yeah, I'd say like look at Edison. He's one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
He enjoyed taking them risks and making mistakes. But as long as you can hold your hand up and say, right, it was your fault, not my defenders, etc., and you learn from it, keep enjoying making the mistakes because it just make you learn and make you grow as a person and a goalkeeper.
You say that you probably were more like accepting of making a mistake, like at an older age. How was it like when you up to that point? How was game day? How was playing games before you got older? Was it a lot of stress, anxiety, or how have you felt? Playing games under high pressure from an early age.
To be honest, this is for me, it was the other way around. So when I was younger, I just didn't think. I can remember one time being in my flat at Watford. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and we wasn't playing till Saturday, and we were playing Doncaster. And I remember ringing my mate saying, "I just can't wait for Saturday." Like I literally couldn't sit still. And when I was younger, I didn't really think about the process or anything like that. And I think that's when I had my little dip. That's why I had my dip, because I didn't know how to deal with it, if that makes sense. It was almost like I was like a kid playing football, this and that, and wasn't maturing. Like, well, I wasn't immature as in like I was silly or I messed around, but like as mentally, it was like I wasn't maturing as a man. Um, so I kind of got through the early stages on adrenaline, but then when I got older, I used to get more nervous before the smaller games, because you set yourself a standard and you think, I need to be at that standard. If I drop below that, people are going to expect. Whereas if you'd play a Chelsea in the FA Cup, I'd be like, come on, let's have it. Wouldn't be bothered because you've got nothing to lose. But I found myself in the league games or the smaller games really not putting pressure on myself. It was almost like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, felt a bit nervous before the games or a bit sick before. And I used to talk to my wife about it, and she said it's because obviously you're setting a standard. So I probably started to overthink the build up more growing up than when I was younger. Well, for whatever reason that is, I still don't really know. But once the game started, I was fine. It was literally before the game. It's like like proper on edge kind of thing.
Yeah, I have the same experience. I learned to enjoy the game more, like closer to 30,
Yeah,
but before that, like around 21, 22, when I was like I had put the standard for myself, performing well, and was like making a career for myself. Then I started to think more, because then you're over that honeymoon period where you're young, everyone is talking about the new exciting stuff coming up, and then you've put one standard, and then you have to deliver weekend in, weekend out, and then I started to overthink it, and like brought too much stress and pressure on myself going into games. And then you start maybe talking to like a sports psychologist or something, you get another perspective, and
yeah,
then you start enjoying the game day more, and everything around the game way more. So it's crazy how much you learn during your career,
yeah,
that you wish you knew way earlier.
yeah. I wish I could go back and again approach it with the mindset I have now and stuff like that. And it's really funny that you said that about overthinking, because I'm a big believer that goalkeeping, it's like a thinking game, right? Isn't it? So like when you're training, you can't replicate a match. Everything in a match is you've got to think and figure it out for yourself. But then if you overthink, it goes the wrong way. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's so unique about like the mind. The mentality side is so big now. It's so big.
Yeah, it's huge, and often if you really want, you are desperate to do well. You're desperate to show your skills and how good you are as a goalkeeper, and then you start forcing the game
Yeah,
instead of just letting the game and the situation come to you. I think that's a big one, that you're just open to whatever happens on that game, and then you just take it as it is.
yeah. I think you can look at the Premier League now, and like for my sins, I'm a Man United fan, and I really like Onana, and he does some really good stuff. But then like he will just think I need to go and get involved in that. And he'll do something completely rash. Whereas next year he might learn from that, and hopefully he does. But it happens at the top level, and you can see it at the very top level. The eagerness to go and impress isn't always the best option. Sometimes just playing it safe and staying at home and just doing the basics. Like I say when I'm coaching, never get bored of the basics, because that's what makes you a good goalkeeper, in my opinion.
For sure. But then there's like lots of younger goalkeepers, they want to know how to dive, how to catch, how to do the side volley, half volley, kick good goal kicks and everything. But I think it's equally as important that they focus on the mental game from a young age, learn how to cope with themselves under pressure, learn how just to try to get familiar with the mental mechanisms that go into the position. What's your thoughts on that? Because working on your mental game can maybe seem a bit boring because you don't like see the results like straight away.
Yeah, well, I think I'm the way the game's going. I'm fully with it. You have to. I mean, kids, and for if I go back to when I was 12, 13, kids just seem a lot more athletic now. They're more powerful. They all do this K shape and the spread. Like when I was a kid growing up, it was just dive in the way of it. They're all seem faster. The goalkeeper shape's changed again. They're going leaner. So ability wise, it's always going to be there. But like you said, it's now the demand to perform every week, the demand to get results, even all the way down to League Two, the National League now, everything's televised. Now, you can have all the ability in the world, but if you can't cope with that, there's absolutely no point playing.
No.
So, I mean, I wouldn't know exactly what you would do as a 13 or 14-year-old. I'm sure there's stuff out there that psychologists can help with, or you might be able to put some stuff in the links that people can look at. But if you can take 10, 15 minutes a day, even if for me, like I'll write stuff down sometimes, good things, bad things. But again, knowing what's good and bad, or always look at something. I get my training record. Like, can I do that? You know, little things, one step at a time. By the time you're 18, you can be 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way the game is going now.
Yeah, for sure. And all the research and everything goes towards that like the mental game and doing mental prep and mental training is really, you can reshape the neuroplasticity in your brain to develop your brain in many kinds of ways. So I think it's put your focus there, and of course to all the other stuff as well, I think is important. So but how was like your if you go back in time a little bit, how did you like become the Scott Loach of Watford? Like how was your journey from a young kid, you're
Yeah.
6, 7, 8, and you dream about being, the best
Yeah.
goalkeeper, probably in the world. And how was your journey?
Yeah. So, yeah, it was. So as a kid, I started out as an outfield player, as everybody seems to do. When I was like 8, and the goalie got injured, went in goal, and I just had the best game I could probably have. And one of the scouts was like, "You're a goalkeeper," so I just became a goalkeeper when I was 8. Um, but if I fast forward it to like my YT, I was at Lincoln at 15, 16, and it was a different environment back then. Like you had to clean boots, you had to do jobs in the changing rooms. If you didn't do it, you'd not get beat up, but you'd get punished by the first team. But I think that made me like really robust and strong. And that's the one thing, to go off track a second. When you talk about the kids, I think that's the one thing. When you talk about athleticism and all that, I think I had the robustness to show up every day and keep going, which I think kids don't maybe have as much now. But anyway, I was at Lincoln, and there was a lad in my youth team called Jack Hobbs who went to play for Liverpool and Forest and Leicester, and he was a machine at 16. So all the teams were watching him, and he was playing in a reserve game, and I just got asked to play in the reserve game. Had a very good game, so I was one game, and then Watford came in for me, so it was like right place, right time kind of thing. So, and I went down there on trial, and they were obviously in the top 3 of the Championship at the time. I finished the season with them, and they put me straight into the squad. Obviously, we got promoted through the playoffs with Ben Foster and stuff. It was almost like bang, chuck you into the deep end, like 4-year deal, and that's how I got to a. So I guess like to start off with, I didn't really have time to think about anything, or what you said about thinking.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to think about it or process it all. It was like, right, you live at home, now you live in Lincoln. No, now you live in Watford, down in London. You're there for a month, then you're back, then straight into it. And then, funny enough, the best thing that happened to me in a weird way, that first year at Watford fully, I broke my foot in training. Like I just stepped off to dive, and they were saying because I was growing, the pressure on my foot, it broke my foot. But it gave me 4 or 5 weeks off, to like, take a step back and have a look, and then go and watch like Ben train and watch the lads train, and almost like gave me my time to think, right, this is what I've got to do. And it was almost like a reset in a really strange way. It kind of got me into the team. So obviously we trained around them, and like you said, seeing Ben Foster week in week out in the Premier League, and watching the likes of Van der Sar and Pepe Reina come to Watford, and watching how they it's just how they hold themselves. Like you would have seen it. You know, when you play against top goalies, they just walk. They just walk differently, don't they?
Yeah.
They just have this. It's like they've got a shell around them that you can't get near, and it's just kind of trying to pick up little things like that was almost like a blessing in disguise. So
Hmm.
so the first year was kind of about moulding in. The second year I went on loan quite a lot. So started off by going to National League, did like a month and then came back, then went and did another month before Christmas, spending 6 months on loan at Bradford, which was, for me at the time, playing in front of 15,000 people every week for a big club was huge. And to be fair to the manager, I owned quite a lot because I had a Jamaican international at the time called Donovan Ricketts. And he just said, "You're coming in, you're playing. I don't care if he's here or not here, you're playing." So he backed me. And again, it was almost like, go on, sink or swim, just get on with it. So I kind of, in that second year, I went and played something like 40 games of men's football. So that kind of put me on the right track moving forward. And then I probably had my first setback the following pre-season because I went back to Watford. And Eddie Buvoid, can you remember Mark Poom, Estonia keeper from back in? He used to play. Might be a little bit
Mark.
Poom. Mart Poom,
No.
Poom, played like 150 games for Estonia, played for Sunderland and Derby, and so Watford bought him in. But they'd played me in every single pre-season game. I played every single pre-season game, and then the manager turned around literally the day before the season, was like, "I can't play you. Like, I can't risk it. I've got to play." So obviously I had my first little setback, but then fully enough, 3 games into the season, he came out for a header and broke his collarbone. So I was kind of thrown in again. And from that point, it was just like, because you didn't have time to process it all. That was the start of like, bang, you're in, and it just almost kind of like wave after wave. I got my England 21 call up because football was different back then. I say back then, so it was how many years ago? Like 15 years ago. But there was, like now, there's a lot of young keepers out playing, or there's 23s. At the time, there was only like me, Joe Hart, and maybe one other. So you were in the 21s. So it was like, because we were the only ones playing, and so I got the opportunity there to be in the squad there and work with some very good goalkeepers. So the Watford kind of cycle was always like bang, 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 like just one after the other without any kind of gap in between. So that's how it kind of really developed.
So, how do you think like all those loan spells shaped you, like as a goalkeeper and as a person?
Yeah, massive. Because do you know what I think the biggest thing is as a kid as well? You have to learn to lose, as in like you have to learn that. Like, I don't know in Sweden how the league system works, but like here we'll have obviously your leagues, but then we'll have like non-league where you might get a man who's a plumber all week, but he gets 200 quid for his team, and he might get £50 beer tokens if they win. But you need to learn to cost that person their money, or you need to learn to let fans down, or because when you play 23s or 18s football, it's great, it's good standard, but no one cares if you win or lose. And then when you go in the first team, that's why you can't deal with the negativity. So it's great winning, but you have to learn to deal with dropping across and 10 people behind your goal saying you're this or whatever, or a big 6'4" man who's been at work all week coming up saying that's not good enough. I think it's so big, and again, it all flips back to the mentality side of it to help you progress, I think.
Yeah, I could not agree more. All of that stuff also affects you as a goalkeeper and as a human, because it's not like always like the on-field stuff that affects how you develop as a goalkeeper, but it's all the other circumstances as well, like the pressure from your teammates, older persons telling you you have to step up, pressure from fans, pressure within a club that if you not keep winning, their financials might be affected. So I think all of that stuff is really, really important to, like, the younger you are and longer you learn that stuff. I think just later on in your career you can just have that like as a foundation for tackling all like different adversity that might come up.
Yeah, I think it helps as well. I think it helps you figure out people's personalities as well. That if someone's having a go at you or shouting at you, it's actually because they like you and expect more of you and want you to do better. And you can work out that actually this isn't personal. He just wants to win. So when you do go into that first team environment and they kind of come for you a little bit, you don't go away sulking or upset and telling your parents, and because oh, actually, Age wants to win. I've been used to this, and it's not a big shock. So I think it helps you figure out that people want the best for you, but there's a demand to win, if that makes sense as well, instead of just sulking and going away and kind of spitting your dummy out.
Yeah. So what's like the highs and lows from your time at Watford? But because I guess you played like 150 games there or so.
Yeah, I played 153 out of 55 league games. I only missed 2, and then obviously the cup. I think it was something like 164 games. But the highs, to be honest, mate, were just playing. I just loved playing. It was, it was every week. Like I said, because I was young, and you'll know now, it doesn't matter that that feeling to be a footballer, a goalkeeper, and be a little bit different is just great. And we had good moments because we had quite a young team, so it was just the feeling of winning and playing, and then going out with the boys afterwards because we were quite a young team. I wouldn't say there was one individual moment that was a real high. The lows was probably when I first had that dip with the mistakes, and I've got no qualms in saying that because I didn't know really how to deal with it because it had not happened. So when I kind of got taken out of the team, I was like, "You can't take me out of the team. I've played all these games and all this and all that." But it wasn't a low because it was the wrong decision. It was the right decision from the manager, absolutely. But probably a low that at that time I didn't know how to process stuff or work stuff out. So, but on the flip side of that, it was a really good learning curve 4 or 5 years down the line.
So like I think it's so amazing that you've been with Ben Foster and with Joe Hart. How, like, we all know that them as human being and as characters they are really good, but how like I think it's so rarely talked about, especially how like how good were Ben Foster really, like, in training and his game, because now all of his his exposure and his social media presence and podcasting, I think he's not so talked about as the goalkeeper. So how was he, when he played and also in training?
He was so good, but yet so bad at the same time. And what I mean by that was I trained with him and Joe. So when I went in one of the England squads, I trained with both of them at the same time. And obviously both of them individually as well. And Ben's natural talent for playing in goal and his footwork and his size was just honestly beyond anything. He was so good, so athletic, so naturally gifted. But I don't think he could really be that bothered sometimes. I think he said that. I think until he went to West Brom or somewhere like that, I think he just wasn't really that bothered. And the guy could play two touch and have a Lucas like in the warm up, and he'd still be unreal in the game. So I just thought, imagine what you could be like if you really, really wanted this. Whereas like Joe was like this, like obviously a great guy, but you could when we went away on training camps, as Monday approached to Saturday, be like he was here. Then Tuesday he got to here. Wednesday he got to here. Thursday he just got so towards that game and just wanted it that little bit more, I think. But talent wise, I think Ben was maybe more naturally gifted, in my opinion, whereas Joe really worked it and Joe made himself Joe Hart by pure drive and determination.
So you think Ben Foster were more naturally gifted than Joe Hart? Because you heard like Ben Foster is talking about Joe Hart like that Joe Hart was just unbelievable, but then
I think Joe it's so hard to separate them, but I look at goalies and you would have trained with some that just like the way they dive and they catch the ball, you think that looks so easy, but then they don't really offer anything more. I'm not saying Ben was like that, but then you'll see someone who's a bit erratic, but you think, God, you're so effective, you're so good at what you do. And it was kind of like that. It was like, I was just looking at Ben thinking, God, like, you just make that look really easy, but you don't look bothered. Whereas everything Joe did, it looked like it was intense, like he was working for it. Do you know what I mean? That's what I mean. It was like, I want that I'm going to take that ball in the face, I'm going to save that. Whereas Ben would just save it. Do you know what I mean? It was like, that's how I felt.
yeah.
So it's.
But do you think that maybe then, I don't know, but Ben has talked about this also on his podcast, that he didn't enjoy playing for United because of the pressure was just ridiculous, and then maybe he tried to just be less bothered maybe and enjoy the game a bit more when he was like in West Brom and those places.
Yeah, I mean, I have a funny story about Ben. I bumped into him when I was 28, 29. He must have been at West Brom and not seen him for a few years. And I bumped into him on a night out in a bar, and he sat me down. He didn't have to do this. He sat me down. He was like, and he said that, like, I won't go into too much personal detail, but he was like, he didn't used to enjoy certain aspects of the game, and then he just realised, like, he saw a sports psychologist as well. It loosened him up completely, and he was just basically saying, like, as soon as you start to overthink anything, which he obviously did at United, he probably thought, I've got to be a robot, I've got to be this, I've got to be that, and it just gets on top of you. And I think he openly said that, and it almost gave me a little kick on in my career to hear it from him, because you think, well, actually, this guy's up here and he's got the same problems as we've got down here, and I'll have the same problems if you've got in Sweden. You'll have the same problems as Cohen in Holland, and it's stuff like that. And it's you've all got the same look on goalkeeping and deal with the same things. It's just whether you can. It's just whenever you accept it and want to work on it. I think.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important that you hear from other, big features that they also have the same struggles as you might have, playing the position, because I think it's some kind of comforting and supportive to hear that, so that you know that you're not the only one and the outcast that is the only guy dealing with all this kind of stuff around pressure and playing their position and stuff. I think it's extremely important.
Well, I think society as a whole is changing, and men are becoming more accepted in it, because I remember Buffon releasing a like a statement that he struggled really badly with depression after he won the World Cup, because he'd hit such a high, and he thought, if I don't reach them heights again, everyone's going to think I'm finished. So I think it's a lot of, and maybe just a little bit before my time, that if you suffered as a goalkeeper, if you came out and said, oh, I'm not quite there, you'd probably just been dropped. But I think now it's not just goalkeeping, but I think what I would try and not plead with kids, but say it's nothing wrong with speaking to a sports psychologist. It's not like you're mental in the head. It will definitely improve you. It's just another tool to add to your belt. So if you are listening to this, and go and do it or try it. And like you said, try and do them things at home for 10, 15 minutes, because it will soon add up. I think, like, society now is more welcoming to it, whereas maybe a few years ago, goalies didn't want to say anything because it was like, you're weak, you're mentally unstable. But that's not the case. It's got nothing to do with being mentally unstable. You're just trying to train a different part of your body.
Yeah. Big big names as like in England, and then I'm thinking about the name like Roy Keane. He's really bashing the role, the position, and goalkeepers like at the best time when there's lots of people watching, and he loves having a dig at the goalkeeper. What do you think that makes in terms of recruiting the role? Like people, like goalkeepers really wanting to play the position. And what do you think about when he sits there? He's never played the position. He has so little respect for the demands of playing there. What's your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I think it's lazy journalism. I think it's terrible. I think it's just clickbait to get something out there, or a bit of negativity, or to play to a persona, because there's no way you can just keep hammering goalkeepers unless you really analyse the goal or go through it. It's all right saying, oh, yeah, you should have saved that. Why don't you break down why you didn't save it? Because you do it with every other goal, or you do it with a bad tackle or a bad pass. You literally just look at it, go in and say, oh, he scored from 25 yards. Well, he might have shot from 25 yards, but the ball moved at 8 yards, so effectively it's an 8-yard shot. Like, why don't you look at, like, that's my point. Like, I've got no problem with them talking about the goalkeepers, but it's almost like they show the goal, they show it in super slow motion, they show it from like one angle, and it's like, yeah, he's got to save that. Well, tell us why he's got to save it. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to do it, tell us why he's got to save it. That's my issue with it. I don't have, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I totally get that. Like, you'll expect someone to save something, maybe I wouldn't, or vice versa. And that's another unique thing about goalkeepers. Everyone's opinion, everyone's style is different. But tell me why. Break it down. Like, because at least you can say, that's fair play. He's backing up what he believes in. Like, uh, and it's like the foot save, or it's like the top hand save. It's like he's gone with the wrong hand. It's like, well, he saved it, so why is it wrong? Like, tell me why it's wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's I just don't feel like there's enough of a breakdown. And I know there's probably time constraints, and you've got to fit so much in the program. But if you are going to go into the keeper, you need to tell us why he was wrong. Because now everyone just jumps on the bandwagon and thinks no goalie should get beat from 25 yards. It's ridiculous. And the near post one, mate, that gets me. So like, someone can be 6 yards.
Me too.
You can get beat. You can get beat in your near post, and it be unacceptable. But if it went exactly the same distance the other side, it's a good goal. So I don't get it. Work that one out.
No, the same if it was like a shot in the middle of the goal, same pace, same placement, and they went in. And it's a good hard shot, and then if it's the near post, then it's always getting mentioned that
Yeah.
it's the keeper.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's also like I feel that we have to also as goalkeepers, we have to handle also that people sometimes like to take the piss out of you and make fun and jokes on behalf of the goalkeeper. There's many of them, but I think it's important that the position is a bit more. I think it's coming now, but recognition and just the respect for how it is to play it. You see, like there's no. Like in the NHL for like ice hockey in America, there's always like they break down why and how and why the puck went in and why not. There's like I listened to Henrik Lundqvist, who's like he played for New York Rangers for many seasons, and he's breaking down why and everything in terms of letting in a goal or why he saved it. And I think that should be like mandatory in every studio, that there is a goalkeeper that knows the position very well and can break it down from the smallest details.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're starting to do it with referees now, aren't they? They're having a referee in the studio. So to me, it still seems a position that's kind of, that'll catch up with us. We'll just leave that behind, and they'll sort themselves out. Whereas, well, actually now, if you look at Pep and stuff, if your goalkeeper's not right, your team doesn't play right. So they're just as important now, and they're spending more money on them, and they're now becoming the focal point of the team. So I totally agree with you. I don't see how. Look, I get you can't get them in every night, but if you're watching that match of the day or your roundup of the goals every weekend, they should definitely be a goalkeeper on there.
Yeah, for sure,
Has to be.
Yeah. So how who were you like in the squad with, if you remember, for the under 21s championship with England? Who was in that squad?
So we had Joe Hart and Joe Lewis, who went on to play really good career, like Peterborough, Aberdeen. So they were the two goalkeepers with myself.
Are there like big names?
We had Mika
Like
Richards, Theo Walcott, Gary Bonglahor. Trying to think back now. Yeah, there were some big characters in there. Some big characters, and then it was the year after that, actually, when obviously Joe then became so old and I stayed on, when we started to get like your Jack Wilshires in there as well, and Andy Carrolls, people like that. I think I've got a photo somewhere, and the team lineup's like incredible. I'll try and find it without looking off the top of my head, but yeah, some big names: Daniel Sturridge, people like that, Danny Welbeck, Tom Cleverley. So yeah, it was eventful, and funny enough, we spent obviously that summer in Sweden. I don't think too far from you, 'cause I'm sure you played at Gothenburg. We were on the beach somewhere.
okay.
Really nice resort on the beach for 3 weeks, and obviously a really good tournament. And then obviously played against the likes of Neuer and Ozil and Kadira. And at the time, it was just like, who are these guys? And then literally a year later, it's like they're all starting in the first team in the World Cup, and it was surreal, really. But yeah, it was good times. I enjoyed it. Managed to get 14 caps. Learned a lot. Played with some really good players. Played some good games. Got to play at Wembley against Portugal and keep a clean sheet. Yeah, got to go to Greece. Like, went to random places like Macedonia, which was very strange but like really enjoyable. Lithuania away, which was cold, as you can imagine. Greece away, which was nice. So yeah, I went to some really good places as well. Germany a few times. So yeah, the experiences that hopefully I can pass on with my coaching and just say, look, I've been in these situations in hostile environments, and the outcome is still the same. You know, it doesn't matter whether you do this or that. But yeah, really, really good moments. But what's really interesting now is if I look back at the goalie training, I don't know if you've noticed this as well, like how much it's changed.
Mm.
It was just back then, it was like volley into a half volley, relax. Now it's like, I do it myself because I enjoy it now, but you get 2 goals, you got 4 goalies, you can shoot in any goal. It's like all action and live and figuring it out. And I look back to then thinking the high standard of goalkeepers what it was, but the training was so basic. It was mental, really.
Yeah. So did you find that you have Scott Loach goalkeeping? Do you really enjoy like the coaching side of things? Putting on sessions and seeing your students develop. How is that side of goalkeeping just from the coaching standpoint?
Honestly, mate, I love it. Like I went into it at first because of COVID and stuff, and I thought I'm going to do a little bit just to kind of cover myself. But like, I found it so rewarding. You know, when you find the kids and they buy into it and they then do something that you've put on, and then they kick on even further, and then like you start to tweak with sessions a bit, and you always get like a little bit inventive, and then like now it's got to the point where obviously the school's quite big, and it's like right, I've got to keep these entertained every week. So I kind of like the challenge of figuring stuff out as well. But then we've had quite a few goalkeepers going to academies from us or go and get scholarships as well, which is really, really nice. I think what's starting to happen is I think because of Ben Foster and you Mark Howards and all these different podcasts that are going on, yourself and Coogan and Declan McCarthy, but Conor O'Keefe, people like that. I think they've made goalkeeping cool, mate. I think they've made goalkeeping. I think people didn't want to go in goal a few years ago. It was like the last place to be, but now it's like everyone wants to be a goalie. And it's cool to be a goalie, and that's what I like with the goalie school. Like you make friendships, but it's a challenge. The mentality, the battles between kids, because you know what it's like, don't you? Like even you, I bet you do it now. I'll do it. If the goalie goes in goal and does a good set, you're like, I want to be better than him because everyone's watching me. Like, and I love that side of it as well. Like, really enjoy it.
So obviously, like your time with Derby is has come to an end. So how does your future look like? I guess you might enjoy some vacation now, but what's on your mind going forward?
Yeah, I've got a lot to think about. There's opportunities there to go and do good coaching roles, um, which is obviously really nice to have that kind of comfort blanket and security. And it's definitely where I want to go and what I want to do. I if I had to set myself a Scott Loach plan for the future, it would to try and be like a head of goalkeeping or a first team goalkeeper at some place. Um, that's definitely what I want to do. There's no doubts about that. How I go about that journey is what I've got to sort out now. Definitely. My goalkeeping schools are growing really nicely, so I'm having a little bit of a break. I want to kind of make them more. I don't like the term elite because I don't like to separate anybody. I think everyone should always get a chance, but almost give the kids the opportunity that like we've had. So like you do individual programs for them. They get almost like the academy program without being in the academy, if that makes sense. To kind of build that, and then like the stuff with like Coogan, and hopefully we can do some stuff and stuff with other people, and like giving people the opportunity to see stuff or see other people, because I think I'm massive on opportunity. I think I'm sure you're the same. You've just seen so many goalkeepers. You think, how have you not got to whatever? And a lot of it does come down to opportunity as well. Like if I go back to that Lincoln reserve game, if I didn't play, where would I be now? So it's almost like building that and making that better. I'm not ruled out playing at all, but I think at my age and with a family, you don't want to keep jumping from ship to ship and be at the same point every summer. So it's kind of working out now what's best for my long term future. But staying in goalkeeping is definitely something I'll do because it's the only thing I enjoy talking about, mate. Like honestly, it's
Yeah.
not bothered about anything else. We talked about goalkeeper. I don't care about anything else.
I think that also what you said about making like trying to make goalkeeper cool to be a goalkeeper. I think that's also been like one of the reasons. Of course, Ben Foster was an inspiration for me to start doing this because I always wanted to do it, but then I needed that kind of and probably him to do something so that I can just hang on to him and just
Yeah.
because Ben is doing it, so I also want to do it, and making goalkeeper like a position that's cool and well spoken of, just like everyone now it does not always just want to be the striker like Erling Haaland, but
Yeah.
they also want to be the Stefan Ortega or the Onana or the Ederson or the Alisson Becker. I think that's huge. And opportunity that you spoke about, there's so many good goalkeepers down the leagues as well. Like
Yeah.
maybe playing like here in Norway and Sweden as well, and everywhere, playing semi-professional, and they have great abilities, just huge, amazing
Yeah.
abilities. But sometimes it's just maybe not. It's about some coincidence, timing, and then probably they've gotten to some kind of age that they might, okay, I need to get some work here or start, focus probably like more on time on my studying than the goalkeeping. So I think what you do there, giving opportunity to young goalkeepers is, and also goalkeepers in general, it's so massive.
I think, but it's funny actually because everything we've said goes back to the mentality side, right? Because I think even now, and what I try and say to the young goalies and why I think it's good for them to train is, and you'll know, like you've probably had it, I've definitely had it. You can be playing in front of 30,000 people or 1,000 people or 10,000 people. There's going to be a pocket of people somewhere in that stand, no matter how well you play, that think you are really bad. So you can have the best game ever, but you're still going to get just the same negativity. So I think as soon as you can learn with that and realise, like we've said, you're not just the only one. You're here training with 30 other goalies who are in the same position, and you have that tight bond. I think just alone as a person, it develops you as well. So I think that's along with the opportunity and the timing and stuff. I think the growth of your mind helps when you've all got the same goal and the same problems. I think you all grow together, and then you learn to deal with it as a collective as well, and realize you're not on your own.
Yeah. So if you look down like in 5 years' time when you're head of goalkeeping at some Premier League club and you're going to recruit a new goalkeeper, what kind of traits do you think that this goalkeeper needs in 5 years' time? Where do you think
Okay, good
goalkeeping is heading?
good question. So this probably shouldn't say this as a coach. Technically, okay, you've got to save the ball, but I think you're going to have to be very fast and dynamic, athletic. Not so much 6'4" anymore. I think it's whether you're effective in your speed around the goal. So if you can get around because I think that, and I'd like to ask your opinion on this in a second, but the training's changed. So, and the position you play in a game now, you're not just in your 6-yard box. You're probably on the edge of the D more. So I think I think Vicario, if you look at Vicario for Tottenham, for me, if you watch how high he plays, but there's clips of him how he gets back into his line to defend the goal, I think he's probably going to be now the mould for a goalkeeper. With maybe you're going to need Edison. I know it's a big ask, but you're going to need Edison's feet as well. That's where because I think they'll start stepping into midfield soon. I don't know how or why. I just think there'll be a way that someone thinks of something. But I think you're going to have to basically be an outfield player in goal. That's what I generally think. And because what I've tried to start doing my coaching, and this is what I was be interesting to get your opinion on, is I feel like we do a lot of stuff around the 6-yard box or spinning off the post and stuff, but we're in our D a lot, aren't we, on the edge of the box, kind of looking to sweep up. I don't know how much work we do actually from there, getting back into the goal, then making the save. So is there an argument to maybe do a little bit more work for that one bit of action instead of touching the post, diving up, and getting upset? So it's really interesting trying to figure that out now as well.
Yeah, I think like those like longer maybe sprints and repositioning that will happen because the game has become so fast. So you might be all the way up to until the halfway line maybe, or at at around 40 meters, and then it's about having speed, agility, tracking back, and finding your position again. And I think if the game is coming, more open, and you have to, as goalkeeper, cover more distance and be, playable pretty much really high up the pitch. I think, physically as well. There's traits that we have to develop. In terms of sprinting and being fit enough, because you also you can't be gassed out when you've done one sprint
Yeah.
and then you have to and then you have
Well,
to make an explosive dive.
well, that's it. That's another unique thing about goalkeeping. You have to sprint to get back in, but then you have to be so calm within the save, don't you? You have to be so relaxed in the save, otherwise you're going to get it wrong. So it's like, again, that for me, the fitness side of things. I think when you look at, like I said to you, when you see the top goalies, there's just nothing on them body fat wise. They're in incredible shape, and I think it's going to have to be that way all the way through. And I don't know how you start doing that with kids. Do you try and add more training time so they still get the goalkeeping, so they keep the ball out of the net? But like you said, do you add fitness drills into them from a young age? Do you get them doing different things where they're changing direction without overloading them too much? But they also have got to adapt. So that's going to be the interesting challenge: is how you create this perfect goalkeeper, let's say, or are you ever going to get the perfect goalkeeper?
Yeah, maybe not, because that's what I think why goalkeeping nowadays, I think it's the most in like most how was the English word, interesting position to discuss, almost in sports, because you have to be able to do so many different things. You have to save the ball, claim crosses, passing, communication, be a leader. Like, mentally, you have to be super strong. You have to be super fit. So there's so many aspects that you need to handle. And then I think it's the big challenge for coaches is, okay, how do we do this in terms of development and make sure that you have to cover a lot of stuff, but um, still you have to cover the different stuff with quality. So it's not just a big bowl of just a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and then you don't get any quality in your training and preparation.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's finding that right balance for everything to the point where it doesn't get too much, so they actually take it in and it doesn't just go over their head. Because that's, like you said, there's so many different aspects. If you're layering it on top of each other, they're going to forget about one thing. Then when you go back to that, they've forgot something else. So I think that's how they start to do that, or how we start to do that as coaches, is going to be an interesting challenge. I think it will definitely require more time on the training field, which means instead of just the goalies getting their 40 minutes and having to go with the team, that's going to have to change. Whether you go back out in the afternoon, maybe, I'm not sure, but I think there's so much more. Not knocking outfield players. Obviously, outfield players are incredible. I feel like there's a lot more finer details, like with that need fine tuning. So you just need more time to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like there's like my mentor, or one of my mentors, he's the head of goalkeeping in Viking Football Club. It's one of the
Yeah,
biggest yeah. And he told me that it's okay that there's lots of new stuff that the goalkeepers, like during the training week, in terms of prepping the number one and the number two for the game at the weekend. Yes, there's a lot of new stuff that's maybe coming to the game that's important, but he also saw that, there's more easy balls and more like easy mistakes being done, because many coaches are not focusing also enough on the basic stuff, like about
yeah,
in terms of handling, diving, just getting the reps in. So he's really big on developing himself as a coach and developing the way they train, but also keep hold of doing the basics every week, so that, because that also builds some kind of confidence in your ability going into the more complicated stuff.
yeah. I think there's an argument there for that to be like, you do your prehab work or your warm ups work before you go out. Sometimes there should be, like you said, a moment where, because within 20 minutes you can do handling, pickups, diving. And like I agree with you. I don't think you should escape that or get away from that, because that is literally your bread and butter. Like you need that in every game to succeed. And I agree with him. You do see a lot more basic errors or sloppy mistakes, and whether that's a technical thing or a lapse of concentration because the game's so fast, Only the individual will know that, but you want to make sure you're covering that. So if your manager comes back to you and says, "Why does he keep doing that?" Well, it must be concentration because working. I think it's so important to cover that because you're always going to need that. No matter how fast the game gets, you're going to have to keep the ball out in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that I do agree with you. It's almost been forgotten about a little bit, but I think it also comes down to the goalkeeper as well. What I've learned as I've got older is, can you dictate, or I think it's important for you, number one, especially, to say, right, no, I need this. Like, this is what, because I think when you're coaching youth team lads and stuff, it's about development, it's about progression, it's about bringing them on. Whereas being a number three and sitting back and watching this year, watching Joe, the first team goalkeeper, he would need something completely different than what the number two would need or I would need, because it's how he prepared. So does being a first team goalie coach almost like, instead of becoming a coach, are you a mentor? Are you a manager? Almost like the goalkeeper's dad, making sure he's ready for the Saturday. Do you know what I mean? But then you've got to manage the other two. So there's an interesting argument to, like, do you just prepare the first team goalies for the game, or do you still give them all this stuff behind? Do you get what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. But like now, when you had like a long career, so what's one of the biggest lessons that you've learned? And if you were to give yourself, the 15-year-old Scott or 14-year-old Scott, some advice, or younger keepers, like some concrete advice, what would you say?
I would touch on one which I say all the time. I do this anyway, but keep doing the basics every day. Like, perfect your handling, your kicking, you like your basics. Just don't ever get bored of that. My other thing would be, like, work smarter instead of harder. So, like, like now, but I do think it's because of times change. But like all the gym stuff, like, do what you need for your position, not what you think will make you look good on holiday, kind of thing. Or, like, sometimes I'd spend hours in the gym, but I wouldn't actually be progressing as a person or a goalkeeper because it was the wrong stuff. So I must be a little bit. So I'd definitely tell myself at a younger age, be smarter with that. Definitely work on what could make you that little bit faster, that little bit more dynamic. And then it would go back to, honestly, what you said, and that would be to have someone to speak to more often, even through the good times. Because when you're playing well, you just seem to forget about it. Like, yeah, I'm playing well, I'm playing well, I'm playing well. But I think it's just as important to speak to people then, to keep you grounded and level-headed and prepare you for the setback that might happen, so you can deal with it quicker. So that would be my three. It would be like my, obviously, and they're pretty basic, but it would be the basic stuff in your goalkeeping techniques, your fitness, but what works for you. So there's no point me watching you do something in the gym and me doing it. It's got to be, because that's a big problem now as well, isn't it? I feel like people will watch people on social media and be like, I've got to do that. It's like, no, you do who you are as a goalkeeper. And then the other one would be, have regular psychological help, not because you're mental in the head, but it can just give you that extra percent.
Yeah, sounds sound advice.
Yeah.
I do have like a question that were meant to be like the opening question.
Yeah.
But it's like kind of a funny one. It's supposed to be like an icebreaker, but it's, if you could invite 3 famous goalkeepers, past or present, to a dinner party, who would they be, and what kind of conversation topics do you think would dominate the evening?
Oh, there's so many to choose from.
I know.
So my go-to would be Peter Schmeichel and Oliver Kahn, because obviously growing up during the 90s, they were the two best, like obviously Premier League and Bayern Munich, and then they were rivals in the Champions League, and they're both not shy to tell each other who's, like, the one would all thought he was the best, the other one thinks he's the best. So that'd be a really good conversation or an argument at a dinner table. But if I think about it now, I probably would still have Peter Schmeichel, just because he was like my hero growing up. And I'd really like to talk to Allison, because I think, as good as Edison is, there's just something that Alisson oozes in class. Like when he makes a save, it's like you don't seem to hear a noise. It just seems to be so soft and relaxed, and just seems to make goalkeeping look incredibly easy at times. So I want to know like how he does that, or how he approaches that, or how he, like his spread. It's like a really unorthodox spread, but he gets in the way of it. Like I just want to know how he chooses to do the right thing at the right time. So yeah, I'd have Peter Schmeichel, I'd have Alisson, and then I'd probably go for Buffon. It's going to be out of him or Casillas. But I just think Buffon would be really. I think he'd just enjoy talking about goalkeeping, but I also think like he'd give them tiny little basic things in a conversation that everyone at the table would just stop. I think he'd just let everybody chat and then just say like, right, and then have you thought about this? And everyone go, oh my god! Like I just think he's just like the godfather of goalkeeping. So and the longevity. It'd be really interesting to see how he got to such a high age of. Because I read something that I think he said something. He did more work at 44 than he did when he was at 24, or something like that. It'd be really interesting to see. So, but yeah, definitely Peter Schmeichel, definitely Alisson, and then yeah, Buffon, just because he could calm everybody down.
Well, it's a nice trio, and then
What about you? Who would
Buffon.
you have? Who would
I
you have?
uh, I would have Oliver Kahn,
Yeah,
Buffon, and Casillas.
yeah. So pretty close.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
think if you add them
pretty close.
that bunch of goalkeepers with, I'd make it like so Schmeichel, Kahn, Buffon, Casillas, Alisson. I think if you throw Edison and Neuer into that mix, you've got 7 of the greatest of all time. I think
Yeah.
it's very hard. I think for some people to break into that just because they're just a different. I know you got your Martinez as a good and your Jan Oblak's very good, and I just think these are just the next level. I think.
How has not like a big company like Sky Sports or whatever brought these guys together at the round table, with dinner, with some wine or something good to drink, and they just sit there and talk goalkeeping for, hours.
This is what I mean.
Imagine,
But
huh?
this is what I mean.
Put,
It's we still look down on like and. What would be amazing about that conversation is like, and everybody watching us now is going to think we're a geek or a nerd because we're talking about goalkeeping, but like everybody on that table could watch a goal and they'd all have a different opinion about it. And then they'd all tell you their opinion on it. And then you could dissect their individual styles and goalkeeping, and not one of them would be the same. So it's like, it's so unique that I don't know why it doesn't happen more. Like, it's almost like we still classed as the weirdos, but it's not. There's so much conversation and like topic to have there, but that's just my opinion anyway.
yeah, I think Ben Foster, he has the exposure now and probably the funds to pull it off. So he should be a big thing to bring those guys together.
Yeah, I think we'll
You know,
put that out as it. We'll put you saying
yes,
that as the
this
real. We'll put that out like for him to
yeah
make it happen. I mean, you can just watch. We can go there and watch in the studio.
yeah because just imagine, all the lessons in terms of watching tape from games, how they trained, and also just all the life lessons they would have to bring to the table that would just be so fun in terms of entertainment, but also in terms of education for younger goalkeepers, recruitment. It would just be something on a whole nother level.
Yeah, no, I agree totally.
Yeah. Scott, so where do the audience find you in socials and stuff?
So Scott Loach goalkeeping on Instagram, and that's pretty much the only one I do really. On my YouTube channel. I'm new to you. I'm new to
YouTube
YouTube,
as well.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm new to YouTube. So yeah, just Scott Loach on YouTube, and then hopefully what I'm trying to do with that kind of platform is provide something for everybody. So almost like you could be a pro and maybe get something out of it, or you could be a 6-year-old or a school kid who just likes goalkeeping, and hopefully we can find a way to cater for everybody. And like we said, show people that goalkeeping's cool, whether you're top or bottom of the scale, and give the kids the opportunity as well to see to see the pros doing, or see how people do stuff. And so yeah, I'm on them too. So if anyone wants to come jump on board, then happy.
Amazing. Scott, it's been amazing. We have to do it again sometime. So
Yeah, well, me and my I've got Matt, who does a lot of stuff for me, and Steve, who does a lot of coaching. We definitely said once the Euro's over, we'd love to jump on a plane and come out and see you and watch a game and stuff, and drink some water and Diet Coke, because we're not allowed beer, are we?
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, if we could do that, mate, that'd be incredible. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Fingers crossed. But no, I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, Scott. Thank you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you.